Hello, my name is Amanda Iheme,
And my name is Sharon Jepson Emmanuel,
and welcome to the Dear Me podcast.
where we have conversations that heal.
And if this is your first time joining us, welcome.
Welcome, ye.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Don't forget to subscribe and to share and to invite your friends, your family, your loved ones, your strangers to listen. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on all platforms where you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We will all be there. So it's good to be back,
Yeah.
for another episode.
It is.
And for today, we're going to be talking about the intersection between mental health and spirituality. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of it, we first of all want to create a foundation to define what exactly is spirituality, what is religion, what is the difference. We're going to talk a bit about that, and then we'll get more into the intersection between both topics. So I want to start it off with asking a question. For you, when you hear the word spirituality, what comes to mind? How do you understand this concept?
Okay, I think it works for me. It's more of being able to operate in the spiritual realm,
Mm-hmm.
believing and also abiding to practices that you believe help you
Mm-hmm.
to stay connected spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And typically, people who practice spirituality and any religion typically have a belief that there is more to life, there's more to existence than just what we can see.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's something that a lot of people actually, a lot of religious beliefs and spiritual inclinations share.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that they see the spiritual world as more real than the physical world, and that everything we have in the physical world first stems from the spiritual. And so, in a bid to change, affect, or even influence anything happening physically, you have to go to the spiritual realm to make it then have effect on the physical.
Mm.
So,
Do you know
that,
when you say spiritual realm, as a Nigerian, what comes to my mind is like, going to a church or going to a babalawo or going to a shrine and,
Mhm.
invoking like the power of gods, things that are not physically present. Was that what you mean when you say spiritual realm?
Yeah, well, I would not say not physically present, but not things that can be seen with the eye.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, of course, it does involve involving, worshiping, you know, beings that are believed to be higher than us,
Mm-hmm.
that live in the realm of the unseen.
Mm.
Yeah, so of course, many people have various ways they get to access the spiritual world.
Yeah.
And for some people, they just generally doesn't believe that it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Some do believe it exists, but don't believe that they have to go through a specific pathway to have to access the spiritual. I think some people have, in quote, hacked it, believing in other non-religious ways to operate in the spiritual and reach out to their inner self. I think some
Mm-hmm.
people do it through yoga. Some people do it through meditation. Some people do it through a lot of other things
Yeah.
that are not institutionalized bodies or methods of approaching spirituality.
And when you said institutionalized, I think that that is one thing that for me differentiates spirituality from religion. I see spirituality as one thing that exists in all human beings.
Yeah.
I see human beings as much as we have our physical bodies, we still have a connection to spirit because there are things that happen within us. There are experiences that we have about life that we cannot say that this is a physical thing. Like this is something that is
Very true.
we can attribute it to like, it's as a result of 1 + 1 being 2. We can see the matter that is related in the creation of this particular instance. And there are things that you feel, things that you observe, experiences you have
Yeah.
that are not physically, you cannot connect to them physically. So it's
Yeah.
something spiritual. Even the virtues that we operate with in life are also
Yeah.
spiritual things like forgiveness and patience and understanding. They are metaphysical. They're not present in our lives, but they're important in how we relate with each other and with ourselves.
Yeah.
So when I talk about or when I think of or someone is having a conversation and they say to me, oh, I believe in spirituality, what I hear is that I'm a person who is in touch with my spirit. And I'm conscious of the fact that as much as there is a physical realm that we operate in, there's also a spiritual realm that we operate in.
Yeah.
And I sometimes connect spirituality to existence because there is this question that we have as human beings as like, why are we here?
Yeah.
And why did we come here? Like, what is the purpose
Very
of
true.
us being here?
Yeah.
So when I also think of spirituality, that's also something that comes to mind, that our existence, the pondering upon our existence exists in that conversation with the spirit. And then when it then comes to religion, it's like an institutionalized, ordered, organized way of connecting with the spirit,
Yeah.
because we need a system as human beings. Like, we can't just always, not all of us can forge our own path to be able to create a connection with our spirit. Some of us need guidance to do that. And religion is what that is. It's like the pathway to connect man and woman and person in the physical realm with their spirituality and their spirit.
Yeah.
So that's how I see the difference between religion and spirituality. What about you?
Yeah, so I think while you were speaking, one thing even came to mind. When we look at the fact that sometimes when you see life, you tend to ask, is there more to just all of this?
Mm-hmm.
And I think one question had been raised on at what point in particular the soul enters the body during pregnancy and all of that. And then it makes you
Yes.
just really wonder. It opens a lot of questions up, with regards to so many people who are pro this, pro that,
Mm-hmm.
with regards to life. Even people who are on, okay, can you take a life? Can you, based on health reasons and pain, can
Mm-hmm.
you do this? At the very core of it is the belief that there's more to a person
Mm-hmm.
than just what you can see, and like you had rightly said, religion really does help us with an organized way to get to the spirit realm.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, too, I think one thing that religion as an organized body also does is just give confidence and hope that you're actually going about these things in the right way.
Yes.
Because there's a reassurance that comes with knowing that these are the ways that have been laid down to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm able to either fulfill them, meet them, or I'm on the way to them. It's just the confidence it gives, which makes this topic we're talking about today very, very important, because that sense of I'm on the right path does greatly influence how we see the world,
Mm-hmm.
how we interpret our own importance, how we interpret relevance, and even just general existence.
Yeah.
So spirituality, yes, being able to function in the spiritual realm for whatever that may mean to different people. And religion, of course, is that organized way to go about your spirituality.
Yeah, yeah. And like, your religion is not, that's not where God is. God is with you, but the religion is what helps you connect to God and helps you make sense of your relationship with God. So moving on to another part. So Nigerians are very spiritual and very religious
We
and
are.
very superstitious. So even me too, I'm very superstitious. So I don't think that part
I
can.
think I want to share one superstition that
What?
I had to drop. And I think that happened, that was secondary school. That belief that whatever happens to you on Monday
Mm-hmm.
will keep happening to you throughout the week
For real?
until you break the jinx. So very little thing. Like if I enter keke when I was in secondary school, if I sit in front, I'm like, I have to sit in front throughout the week.
What?
that was a superstition. Like, no.
Oh
It's
my
just about how
goodness.
so I think we're really superstitious people.
Okay.
But really, you can't take that away from the grounding that we have in some things. Our
Mm-hmm.
religion, our faith, our belief. I think it has even helped us understand that a lot of times you can't just get away with misbehavior.
Yes.
I think that has really helped us in our justice, in our idea of right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that even when nobody's there, someone's watching and you have to do right. So I
Yeah.
think, yes, we're very religious people, spiritual people, superstitious people,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't take that also away from how we are as people
Yeah.
in our approach to dealing with things.
Yes. And I think, like, when I even think of, colonial times, the way I understand it is like, yeah, we never stopped being, even pre-colonial times, we were still very superstitious people. Our lifestyles were guided by the religions that we believed in at the time. And back then, our religion was our way of life, same way that it is now. It defined the rituals we performed. It defined the ceremonies that we were part of, how we eat food, share, commune with each other, family dynamics, getting married. It was still very much a part of it.
Very true.
Colonialism came in and just replaced it. It just took what was there and then turned it into something negative and then said, okay, I have Christianity for you. This is a better one for you to follow. So we never really stopped or started. We were just always this kind of people that we've just found a way to channel that emotion and that's part of ourselves into a different religious belief. So when we talk about superstition, Jude, I just remember So I told this story to one of my close friends and we were laughing about it, about how Sunegi and I were in the house in Ibadan and we walked into Sunegi's room and there was a belt hanging in the cupboard and we couldn't figure out where the belt came from. Honestly, I'm sure that it was one of the workers that left his belt there. But then he was like, oh my God, I've never seen this belt before. I've gone through my entire wardrobe. I don't even know how the belt got there because I know if I'd seen it, I'll be sure. So we were checking and then both of us got scared. So she made a prayer. She prayed. I prayed. I went to the kitchen. I carried scissors and I held it. I said, I'm not touching that belt. Maybe they come to me and use and unlock my destiny. They will belt my destiny. God forbid. I used the scissors. I carried the belt with the scissors, cut the belt there, used the scissors, held it. I said, whatever jazz is on this thing will be on the scissors. Took it out and I dropped it. In that moment, I was like, I'm sure my mother is so proud of me because she would have done the same thing. She would have probably poured holy oil, holy water, and then burnt the belt as well. But in that moment, I think I was really confronted with the fact that Amanda, science, but did you catch it? Did you catch it? So, and so we're very superstitious people. No matter how much we are intelligent and logical, we still believe that if you pick up money from the ground, you turn to yam.
Really,
yes, and
really
honestly, that thing. It's only when I'm abroad I'll pick up money from the ground. Did you know they go past Atlantic Ocean? I will not, even if it's 100 naira I see on the floor, it's not me you eat for Christmas. No. So with us having this conversation about the superstitions around religion, how do we then know religion and spirituality, how do we then know what is healthy and what is unhealthy? When do we then begin to say that the way that we are practicing our spiritual life or what our spiritual practices and our religious practices is no longer healthy for us? And how do we then know when it is healthy for us? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it's very good to start on the note that how deeply evolved a person is in their religion. I don't think we have that ability to say, oh, you've gone to extreme. Oh, you're to this. I think a very simple marker, because we all are committed and dedicated to different extents and different levels. I am a Christian and I know I give it a lot. Yeah, I do give it a lot. And that's not because I'm compelled to, but it's because as a result of understanding, you come to understand that there is really more to all that exists. And like you said, the experiences you have, things that happen, things you see, things you get to know that this was not fact. It only came to happen after and then, but I knew ahead of time. So I think when it becomes unhealthy, in air quotes, is when it begins to take you away from being clear on what reality is.
Yes.
You know, particularly when it now leads to issues with human relationships. I usually believe that anything that begins to turn your back against people makes you hostile, toxic, so paranoid that you don't want to relate to people, cut you off from people, like they're the ones against you, they're the ones following you. It has reached a very, very, very unhealthy level because to the extent to which I know, Christianity canvases, pushes, teaches, friendship, quality relationships, building one, of course, and when you see anything that is beginning to plant that fear of leave them alone, they're against you, your enemies from this place, you're this one, and then it's isolating you, it's most likely going to push you towards mental illness, because, as you were saying about the belt and everything, and then I realized even growing up, we had grandparents who had issues with a bird on your roof. Why are these birds just making noise at the door? Where's this spider from? And I'm just thinking about it, like, that's a lot of anxiety and paranoia. And in the end, you just find out that you really can't divorce your mental state from your religious or spiritual inclinations.
No.
Yeah. They really work hand in hand. And when you're unable to put a check to it, for me, it begins when your human relationships are beginning to get tampered with. And then there's that now wanting to separate you. For me, that has become very unhealthy.
Yes, I quite agree with that. With Ordinary, I know that one of the things that's so important is not just respect for human beings, but also respect for the environment, respect for animals, knowing that you can't just take from the earth and just, I'm going to go and burn this entire forest here and use it to make furniture and not plant back trees into it. I'm just going to find any animal and kill it without properly taking care of the ones I'm responsible for. So it's the same thing. It's like the moment then you now start going to go and meet your dibia, or you go and meet like a witch doctor, or you go to go and meet a traditional practitioner and say, oh, I want to do this for wealth. I want to do this for success. Or I want to do this so that it can hamper somebody else's existence or bring them down. That's when it becomes unhealthy. So that's selfishness, because what I notice about most traditional religions is that they promote that respect for the environment and respect for other people and the family, and bringing people together in unity. So there weren't a lot of words, but they were just a lot of ceremonies that brought people together as a community, working together as one, solving problems together as one. So the moment that people now start to look out for their own self-interest, that's when it begins to tear people apart. So when you are now doing things that don't help bring unity within your community, and things that don't respect your environment and doesn't show gratitude for what the earth has given you and what God has put in your life and your strength, that's when it starts to become unhealthy. And also, like, the virtues that guide your religious belief, even in Christianity, when you're going in opposition to that, when it's like, okay, love your neighbor as yourself, but you're not loving your neighbor as yourself. Be kind to other people, respect them, their values, their system, look after, like, cherry picking parts of the Bible passage as, oh, this one favors me, so this is the one I will use. And this one doesn't favor me, so I'm going to ignore it. Or like, I remember one time we went to church and the priest was talking about how it was this particular passage about how wives should treat their husbands. He also, the beautiful thing he did about that was that he talked about how wives should treat their husbands, how husbands should treat their wives, and how parents should treat their children. And all of this is in the Bible. Do not push your kids to anger. Children must honor their parents. Exactly. But sometimes people will just say, oh, just do the part that is favoring the husband, or do the part that's favoring the wife, without really paying attention to all the other aspects that are quoted in the Bible. So it's just important that for you to differentiate between health and unhealthy spiritual practices is it bringing peace into my life? Is it bringing organization into my life? Am I living according to the virtues that are being practiced by this religious belief that I follow? Am I bringing peace not just into my life, but the life of other people that come around me and surround me? If you don't even have a spiritual yes, if you don't follow any organized religion, I think that you as an individual need to have your own set of morals and principles that you spend time sitting back to say, okay, these are the set of morals and principles in my life. And what are they geared towards? Are they geared towards the quality of life I'm trying to create, where I have peace of mind and joy and I have a community? Okay, am I living according to those set morals and principles I have put for myself? Am I living according to those philosophy? And the philosophies and the principles and the morals I'm choosing to use to guide how I live on my life and connect to my spirit, is it positive? Is it helpful? Or is it one that ends up hurting other people? And I also think that sometimes, like, checking with other people can be very helpful. That's why you need like a spiritual advisor, and make sure it's one that has a good head on their shoulders, because you can get so intense in your belief that you lose the plot and become harmful to yourself, but still believe that you're doing it because you have the best of intentions. Where you're doing things that are restrictive to you, unhealthy, like sometimes you're fasting, but you're not taking into consideration your health. And then you're doing it because fasting is a really good thing. It can cleanse the mind and cleanse the spirit and really get you in touch with yourself through that deprivation. So, self-sacrifice towards, positive growth. But it gets to a point where it's no longer good for you. Where if you're maybe a diabetic person, or you have anemia, or you have, an ulcer, but then you're choosing to deprive yourself of nourishment because you want to deepen your
pregnant.
Yeah. And you want to deepen your spiritual life, then that's not helpful for you. Then that's when it becomes unhealthy. Or you know that your family is in a very serious financial crisis, but then you still take your money and give it to your spiritual leaders. To me, I always question, like, does that spiritual leader want what's best for you? You can't feed, you can't pay school fees at home, you can't, but then all the money you've made that year, you're going to go donate it to whatever religion you're believing in as a way of trying to further that religion's like institution, like strength and stuff. So when you're thinking about the health and, unhealthy nature of your spiritual life, it's good to ask those questions like, is it good for me as an individual? Is it affecting the people in my life positively? Am I living according to the virtues of the practice? Am I cultivating positive, healthy moral principles?
Yeah.
And I think that as individuals, as human beings, we have the mind to be able to tell when something is wrong or right. But in the times when we're not able to, having a spiritual advisor can be helpful, or even just talking to a friend can be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really important that we're able to give ourselves that mirror in others to
Mm-hmm.
reflect back to us to really help us. Even religious intolerance,
Mm-hmm.
you know, being open to even people who don't have the same religious or spiritual beliefs as you and seeing
Yeah.
them as people that need to be respected,
Mm-hmm.
irrespective of where they stand.
Yeah.
Of course, everybody has their own ways to want to
Mm-hmm.
convert, to want to win over, but I don't think you would ever do that by being hostile to anybody,
Yeah.
trying to hurt anybody. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just important that we really look at the major markers of religious or spiritual inclinations on ourselves as people and on other people around us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this then brings us to major misconceptions, that people have about the relationship between spirituality and mental health,
Yes.
like
Yes.
just different, all sorts of things. There are people who on that continuum, they lean to the extreme of all mental health, no religion is fine. People who lean to the other one of all spirituality, no, what's wrong with your mind? it's because you're not praying regularly. That's why you are seeing things you ought not to be
Mm-hmm.
seeing,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. So there are people who are in the middle. And I think the greatest disservice really has been the stance that people have where they feel like spirituality and health in general, are enemies.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you have religious practices, you should not have to seek medical help.
Yeah.
There are people like that who, if they're giving medication, they won't take it. They will rather maybe pray alone. The truth is that both of them are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
You can do both. I was
Yes.
about to say, you can do both. You can both take medication and pray. You
Yes.
can do what is expected. You can have faith.
Mm-hmm.
You can connect to your spiritual self and still do what the doctors say. Because I think about it and I wonder, where did we get this outstanding, astonishing discoveries in science? If it's not that it was, I don't even know what to say. It
It
brings
was
us,
spiritually
yes,
inspired.
it brings us to that point where we realize that there's really more than us. If you've
Yes.
ever seen I don't know, there are these images usually in labs where you see human figures with just the nervous system or just the
Mm-hmm.
veins. You look at the intricate workings of all the body systems
My
and you knew
goodness.
this couldn't have been by just a mere person
Nope.
or a mere mind. It helps you see that there is more to this world
Mm-hmm.
and there's more to our existence than
Mm-hmm.
just clay and putting things together and just bones. The
Yes.
intricate working of the heart, the brain, the systems, how they all trigger each other, helps you see that they all work together. So, what ideas or what major misconceptions have you heard that people have had with regards to all of this?
I think one of the most common one is that particular you don't need mental health. You don't need to go to church. Go and pray.
You can do
Go to
both.
your imam. Go and pray. Then you don't need that. It's because you're not praying as often as you should. You're not talking to God. You need to reconnect back
Mm,
with God. And it's common in all religious beliefs that when you have a mental illness or you have any illness of any kind, it's as a result of a disconnect with the spirit.
mm,
And I think that this also, because as a photographer, the work I focus on is pre-colonial. It's mostly like what happened before the colonial mindset came in. And when I see the spiritual belief, it sort of makes sense to me because back then they actually had mental health advisors. And coincidentally, I was talking to my mom's sister about my mom's family tree and that, and she was telling me about how one of our uncles was actually a psychologist at that time, but it wasn't psychologist that they'll call you DBIshi. So that's the healer of the mind, because that's what DBI means. And people think when you say DBI, you mean like a witch doctor that is with whites all over their head. No, there are different DBIs. They have
mm.
DBIs for the bone. DBI is just a healer. So they had the healer for the bone, healer for the mind, and then they have healer for the spirit, which is the ones that they most talk about in the movies. So she told me like, well, your family, there was actually a psychologist just like you. So I was like, wow, that's interesting. But during those times, a lot of rather more often than not, mental illnesses were attributed to issues with spirit. So maybe you have anger the god, or you have a spirit husband.
Punishing you.
Yes, so it's a punishment from the gods. So if as much as colonialism has come in and then Western mindset has come in to bring that science, which I still think that science is still the language of God, because there is nothing that is of man that is not of God. There is, because we did not create anything, both the good and the bad. It is not of us, our own power. So there is that distinction that, okay, fine, Western education has come and then brought this knowledge to us, so we should be logical. But the truth is, we're Africans to the bone. So that same mindset still continues, that when we have mental illnesses and we have trouble with our physical being, that it's as a result of a disconnect with the spirit. So it persists in all religious beliefs. And which is why whenever people are sick, whenever they're ill, they would much rather first try to deal with it in the spirit before they come to meet a doctor. Because they have this idea that, God and hospital are different, like as if we're working differently. But the thing is, sometimes when I read the Bible or I even read spiritual books that have to do with my religion, everything sounds the same. It's still that connection between yourself, your being, your workings with God, how you navigate the world, and being able to do things that are good for you as a person and for your environment and for the people you live with. So there is always that connection between spirituality and your physical health and your mental health. You cannot work in isolation with any of them. They are so well connected. So that misconception is always that the spirit and the mind, they don't work together. So, and do you know the funny thing is that people, they'll be saying until it has gotten really bad. When their wellness has gotten to the point where it's like, oh, okay, now I have to rush. That's when they will now come to the hospital and they're like, oh, we need help. They have a sense of urgency to it that they now want to now I come and treat in this particular way. So what I tell some of my clients and even people who talk about this is that there's a different way to look at it. Instead of thinking of it as, spirit and mind are different, it's like God could have inspired or even sent a psychologist to come into your life to provide you the healing that you need. Because I truly believe that man is God to God, that God is man to God. I think there's one language I used to use, but the idea is that when God wants to heal you, God's not going to come in person to come and give you the healing you need. He's going to put that power and that spirit into another human being. And that human being is what's going to connect to you, either through words that they have written down or even actions that they perform or even just things that they do for you. So do not then isolate yourself from God because it doesn't look the way you want it to look. And you want it to be and come from a particular pathway.
So I think it's, if I'm getting you clearly too, it's just that based on your belief of who your higher power is, at least I want to believe that everybody would defer to that higher power. If you do have an organized religion, that everything comes from that higher power. To get the point that everything comes from it. And because of that, you would not see anything that's outside the provision or creation of that higher power. And they all work hand in hand. Science and religion, science and spirituality are not enemies. Common sense and spirituality are not enemies. There are things that it's just commonsensical to do. To eat well, ensure that you rest well, ensure you put things in place. And don't then not eat well and then think that God is punishing you with an illness. So all these things, they work hand in hand. For a person who doesn't believe in organized religion, they and consequently don't believe in any metaphysical healing, they have medicine. For a person who believes in religion, spirituality, you have both. You can go to the hospital, seek professional help. It's just the same thing. I think it's when it comes to health that things are very controversial. Would you just stand in a place and ask a house to be? You will call professionals to build. You'll call an architect to design. You will call a lawyer to defend you. You say that God is my lawyer. I'll go to court and just show up. So if you can engage a banker, keeping your money, helping you to do all the analysis of your finances, then physical health and mental health essentially are not separate. They all work together. So it's really important that we don't separate them or make them appear to be at loggerheads or think that if you seek medical care or mental health care, then you are not a faithful or you are betraying one of your religious beliefs. The truth is they all work together because if you believe that nothing has come on its own, then it has a source and that's outside of all of us. So think that is a very beautiful approach to looking at it. So it now takes us to what's the relationship?
Between
Yes, how can mental health and spirituality
spirituality.
and religion, how can they work together?
You know,
Yeah,
I really enjoy it when my clients bring like their religious belief into therapy,
yeah,
irrespective, because it has opened my mind to so many different religious beliefs and being
yeah,
able to help make that connection between their faith and then their mind and helping them see how that can work together. I remember one time that I was talking to someone who was just like, okay, that they're having this issue where they had experienced something so negative and painful, and because of that, it had sort of affected the way that they pray to God and even being able to show up for prayers and that. And we talked about it for a bit. And I said to her that, instead of you approaching that, like something has changed in your life. So the way you communicate with God also has to change. You can't keep going down that same path of how your prayer flows. You need to allow it to flow a different way. So talk to God from a different perspective and have a different structure to
mm,
how you manage your faith. And then when she did that, it really helped. Then another time, somebody else came up to me to talk about how they had done like a tarot card reading, and then the tarot card reader had told them that these are some areas that they need to pay attention to in their life. And they were like, oh my goodness, this actually aligns with the things that you mentioned to me when we spoke like 2 years ago. I can see how the thing like really connects with each other. And like, so if this is like recurring, this is like a sign that I need to pay attention to. So, and people bring astrology to therapy. People bring
yeah,
different ideas of
very true.
what do you think about this? How do you think this aligns with my mental health? So I think like more and more people are realizing now that it's good to have a medical professional who
Yeah,
does not in any way shame or discard your religious belief as a part of your healing. I encourage my clients like have a spiritual practice, especially those who are inclined to do it, have a spiritual practice and keep it strong because it can help you even with that sense of discipline, that
yeah,
resilience you're looking for,
sure.
that faith that you're looking for, that you have the capacity. Sometimes the faith you have is not faith in your own power, but just that faith that there's this,
Something bigger.
yeah, something bigger that's working beside you, around you, and wants what is best for you. Like how I have a very big God by my side. I believe the universe is working in my favor. All of this is it helps when you're able to reinforce that into people's minds that yes, you're coming in for therapy, you're gonna do your own work, but there is also a higher power that is working in your own favor. And when you're not able to have faith in yourself, having faith in that power can be the thing that lifts you up and helps guide you in the direction you want to go to.
Yeah,
And also like the spiritual practice, can help you instill a sense of discipline. You wake up in the morning, you say your prayers before you leave the house. It gives you energy. I've told people about how even going to do worship songs can be such a mood lifter for you, especially when you're struggling with things like depression and anxiety, especially with anxiety.
self-esteem.
Yeah, self-esteem issues. Just believing that you are worthy because you are loved by God can be such a good boost for your self-esteem. Having prayers in the morning is such a powerful word of affirmation that you're going to have a good day. You're surrounded by love. You have peace in your life. Like the spiritual words you fill your heart with through your religion can be one of the strongest, like a stronghold for your mental well-being. It can
Yeah,
help you be more resilient. It can help you cope and also even help you recover when you've experienced things like trauma
very
and
true.
all that mental illnesses
Very
as
true.
well. So I say that your spiritual life and your mental health, they work together because it's all in one mind.
Yeah,
Everything is in one mind, one body, one soul. So I don't like tell people like, oh, they are separate. No, find a way to integrate them together and don't hesitate to bring your spiritual beliefs into therapy. I can't read all the spiritual books, but whatever spiritual beliefs my client bring in,
yeah,
I try to get a bit of knowledge about it to see how I can infuse that into their own care to make sure that, they're growing alongside their faith.
yeah,
Yeah.
very true. I think in that aspect of recovery,
Yeah.
I think I read a research paper that was said that people that have a religious or spiritual inclination tend to
Hmm.
get better much more
Yep.
because that belief that it can't end here. It gets better than this. I can hold on. This is just temporary. Things would get better. And also even the people that you share the faith with when they surround you, that's a lot of community.
Hmm.
And even generally for your mental health, people who are isolated don't do as great as people who have community,
Yes.
people to share the burden with, people to check on you, people to care for you.
Yes.
So religion and spirituality does help us with a stable existence.
Yes.
It helps us with much more to aspire to.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times some people can say, what this religion is expecting of me seems unreachable. But you then realize that it actually gives you a standard, something you can attain, try to attain as much as you can. And it just helps you have a basic requirement for living.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just understanding that both of them, they actually work together.
Yes.
Even if you come from the standpoint of the huge dose of positivity that religion does give to you, with its expectations from you, with what it asks you to expect from others, with how it expects you to act in certain situations. For some people, the opportunity that they've had at good parenting was religion.
Mm-hmm.
Having to come into that organization, spiritual inclination, and you meet people who are willing to reparent you,
Mm-hmm.
reintroduce you to know this is how love should be. This is how relationships should be. This is not toxic. This is what to expect. Like you were saying about church and wives, husbands. Some people have done it differently from their background. They've seen their parents live differently. Even research has shown that people who tie themselves to some spiritual belief or religious inclination tend to have more stability because they have virtues that they uphold,
Yeah.
and conscious of their effects on other people. So you find that for people that had deeply ingrained, it doesn't in any way destabilize, rather it tries to help. And when you find yourself, like we had previously talked about, going to the extreme, where you're beginning to isolate yourself, see others as bad and you are the best, seeing your own self as the only one in the right and everybody's hopeless, at that point, it begins to become very unhealthy for your mental health. And very simple, I like to call them little mental illnesses, like anxiety, they just begin to erupt,
Crop up. Yeah.
paranoia, those things, the way they can be comorbid issues for other things.
Mm-hmm.
On the top of paranoia, a lot of other things can sit on it. Very easy mental illnesses can just attach to that. So we then realize that both of them, they work together. I think I was also reading somewhere where in healthcare now, they're beginning to integrate your spiritual inclination to your care,
Important.
and finding space for it, really finding space. Because if a person tells you, like you said, tells you that something has changed with my relationship with God, something has changed in the way I practice my spiritual faith and all of that. For you, you think it's just words, but for them, it's at the core of who they are, and it will in no small way impede the work you're doing.
Yeah.
Because if a person just has that sense of I'm wrong, I'm not in the right, I'm supposed to be doing something I'm not doing, it's going to greatly affect the work you're doing. And if a person doesn't feel boosted enough or in the right to do what is right, it messes with your head.
Yeah.
So everything works together.
Yeah.
I think we need to begin to be much more accepting, of faith, religion, spirituality, and even health. I think that's where the point of view we're coming from. I think we're already accepting of spirituality and religion. Is understanding that your care, your health, should not be treated as in opposition
To your
or
faith.
an enemy to your faith.
Yeah.
Take drugs, go to church, go to mosque, take your drugs, seek the advice of your spiritual leader, go for the operation if that's what's required.
Mm-hmm.
If you would, I don't even want to go into the one of Hebrew women giving birth naturally and going through CS.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have another thing about religion, spiritually, religiously, you should not, why would you go through operation to give birth? But you just come
You
to
can't limit your own health because of your religion and then put yourself at
and
risk
that's even
of
if
death.
your religion requires it. That's even if, because I'm yet to still find till today anybody that can prove that Christianity actually limits you to natural birth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it also puts a lot of responsibility on us to not just sit as a person, as a religious person on what you're told. There's a need for you to also study.
Yeah.
Put yourself into really understanding, if I have chosen this path, what does it really entail?
Mm-hmm.
Because in the end, your understanding of what it entails will affect your perception to life,
Mm-hmm.
your limits, your what you're willing to do and not to do. So it's just really important that we understand that health is important and it is not an enemy
Of faith. Yeah.
at all. They all work together, beautifully together.
Beautifully. Like,
Beautifully.
even before I go to therapy, like, a lot of times I have to pray and just be like, God, like, because...
You do that too?
Yes, I do it too.
I'm like, God, give me what to say.
Yes,
I
give
don't
me
know
wisdom,
everything.
like,
But
whatever. I'm just like, whatever this person needs to
you'll
hear.
find it on my mouth.
Yes, make me the channel through which you speak the words that this person needs to hear in therapy today that gives them the healing that they're looking for. Because sometimes this work, there's sometimes when you're doing therapy and then you say some things, I'm just like, how much this is not of my own might. I did not come up with this. Like, there's something speaking through me to you. And the client will pick it up and just be like, what? Okay.
Or when I even ask questions, like I ask a question and somebody answers, I'm like, oh, what about this? And I'm like, asking about that could not have just been natural.
Yes.
It was very spiritual. I have to ask you this.
There's someone that wants you to know this. God wants you to know this, and He's just using me as a mouthpiece for your own wisdom. So it's just important. It's important. It's a very nice conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you. So as per usual, we're going to leave you with the task of the day and of the episode. So for this episode, your assignment is that we want you to do two things. So the first one is that we want you to reflect on how does your spiritual life impact your mental health. To sit down and ask yourself that question. What is the relationship between, are you the type of person to separate the both of them? Or do you try to find a way for them to work together? Do you talk about it in therapy, or do you just stay away from talking about it because you don't want your therapist to like bring it up and make it about faith alone? What are the concerns you have around your mental well-being and your spiritual life? And how can you make them work well together? So that's it.
That's very important. How you really can bring them every day to your everyday living to make them work well for you.
Amazing. That's just very nice. I truly enjoyed this episode, and I do hope that everyone listening today also enjoyed it. And we look forward to speaking to you soon. So don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe on all the platforms where you listen to podcasts. Share it with your friends, your family, your loved ones, strangers, colleagues at the office. And when the platforms ask you to like Spotify would, please leave comments, yes, and give feedback, share, because this helps our visibility.
We're reading it.
Yes, and we're going to be responding as well. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
Bye.